The Witness from Destiny 2 versus the Darkest Knight from DC. Both of these characters are two of the most evil characters you will ever meet in fiction, and their impact on the story is still being felt today. Who among these two true terrors to the multiverse will win today's fight? Let's find out. Before I begin today's analysis, I would like to say a couple things. First and foremost, without the assistance of my friends Wally West and Lumos Theramax, today's video would not have been possible. The research I received was through not only my own efforts, but from assistance from those two. They helped me understand DC far more than I ever could by myself. Although they do not affect the conclusion of today's video, I would still want you to give them a lot of support because it would mean a lot to me if you did. For the other thing I wanted to say, it's this. Fellas, we come from a lot of communities. Maybe like Infamous, maybe like Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach. It really doesn't matter the community you're from. The goal of my content at the end of the day has always been to bring people together and create discussions on topics that I think are interesting. You may disagree with me on either Destiny or DC, but regardless, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because we're all here to have fun. And if you support this message, please help me out by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for your time, and please enjoy the video.
And now, we would have you join us, Commander.
In the beginning, there was only two. A gardener, a being who represented complexity in life. This being was someone who sown the seeds of life and watched the fields of existence grow into something of its own. This gardener believed that the role of all within creation was to live within united harmony of each other, to become a greater existence than merely themselves. The gardener had an opposite equal, however. This opposite equal believed in all the things that the gardener hadn't. This was the winnower. The winnower was a being who grabbed the scythe and reaped the fields of all life within it. They cut away the imperfections of shapes within existence. The winnower's belief was in existence there should only be one dominant life form above all else, whether they were stronger, smarter, or more cunning. It doesn't matter, because the winnower believes that fundamentally only one being, one race, can exist above all. And so the gardener and the winnower clashed. They played an infinite amount of these games, these flower games, the game we know as Destiny. In the modern cosmology of Destiny, tensions run wild between the gardener and the winnower. They've played the flower game for a long time by now, and always the gardener lost. They were frustrated. They were tired of the same thing happening over and over and over again. And so eventually they came to do battle. And in their battle, the winnower forged a weapon unlike any other, a weapon more personal, more offending than whatever words it could truly tell its opposite. This first weapon was a first knife, in this being known as the Witness. The Witness is the avatar, the child, the agent of the winnower. Though the winnower does not directly control the Witness is more than aware of how creation came to be in existence. This Witness sought its own goal, though. From the collection of the precursors that came together, the Witness came together to form an objective of his own: to instill purpose on a cosmology that lacked purpose. And so began the story of the most evil being to exist ever in Destiny history.
When darkness falls and people need hope, they turn to their heroes. Isn't that funny?
The Darkest Night, the most chaotic of all evils ever seen in DC up to January 2021. What is he? Truth be told, his story does not begin there, but well before that. You see, in the Omniverse, there is an infinite amount of Batmen, with an infinite amount of fates, destinies, journeys they take, battles they fight, fears and experiences. All these Batmen experience all of these things in their own way, in their own timeline. But there rests a Batman in one timeline who broke. This Batman was younger compared to other Batmen, much younger in fact, by quite a few years. But that's not the reason why we're here. No, we're here for the scary part. You see, one day Batman did battle against the Joker, but the Joker wasn't playing around anymore. There was no games to be played, no tricks to be pulled. No, this Joker was hell-bent on breaking the Batman, and break him he did. He killed innocent people. He forced Batman to watch as innocents around him suffered and died. Eventually, his psyche broke, and so he battled and defeated Joker, even ending his life. But through doing all that, he paid a very dear and heavy cost. He took in the most potent amount of Joker venom imaginable, and thus his body was forever shaped into a being he never thought he could ever be. The Batman who laughs. This Batman is evil, devious, crafty, a manipulator, a snake in the shadows. The Samuel who made Eve bite the forbidden fruit. With the manifestation of this impossible fusion realized, he goes about achieving his most awful of ambitions. He goes from serving as the aide to Barbados, to becoming a god. You see, in one universe, he noticed a Bruce Wayne who became Dr. Manhattan, and so he had subsequently defeated that Dr. Manhattan, and then he had their brains swapped, so that his brain would be in the body of that Bruce Manhattan. Eventually, he scoured the multiverse in search of other Batmen to bring to his cause, and at the same time, to learn from them. That though he was greater and more powerful than the rest of them, what he lacked was awareness and experience, and he realized this. And so assimilating the experiences of all these other Batmen into himself, he became a far greater being. A night darker than any. A darkest night.
When darkness falls and people need hope, they turn to their heroes. Isn't that funny? A final shape is coming.
So, who do I think wins? As I pointed out at the start of the video, who you think is going to win is largely going to depend on how you compare Destiny to DC, or DC to Marvel, or Warhammer to World of Darkness, or so on and so forth. My rule for comparing large verses is generally just to assume that they're all relative, like SMT, SCP, Fate, Umineko, maybe Daizare, Marvel, DC, Destiny. You name the large verse, chances are you can probably put it on a list somewhere. And I think they're all relative, because they pretty much all have this one character who's like the creator of the verse, God, has every power, blah blah blah. It's basically the same thing. It's like comparing water to water, or like orange juice to orange juice. It makes no freaking difference. It's just a brand difference, that's all. You may as well be comparing Arizona tea to Milo's tea. It really does not make any difference other than which one you like better. Applying this mindset to stats, who do I think takes that department? I'ma be real, this is gonna be really spicy, but I think the Witness just completely no-sells the Darkest Night in terms of stats. Hear me out, give me a second. I think the final shape, just turning the off switch on the entire cosmology, is infinitely more impressive than the Darkest Night eventually becoming strong enough in his quest for power to just smoke everyone. Like, this dude was saving up all of his power to throw down with the hands of the Source, and he didn't get to do that because he got Black Sunned. Now, the Black Sun is not at all an anti-feat. However, TDK's plan was still to just become strong enough, drop everything in the Overvoid, and then progress the story in his own way. Whereas, say, the Witness just said, I'm tired of this crap, and then became the strongest in the entire verse, then did it again, 2 times over, and then off-switched everything. With the only reason that he lost is because the Traveler wasn't fully taken over yet, because the Witness hadn't taken over the Traveler for very long. How you rank the Witness among DC's antagonists is up to you. I'm not here to dictate it. You could put him on the low end or the high end, but I'm gonna be honest, he's way more impressive just feat-wise. Like, I honestly think it is a very clear stat difference. Whether it's a one-shot or not, the Witness is clearly much more powerful and more durable in this regard. What about Hax? Hax is an extremely strange conversation. I'm gonna say that Hax is fairly debatable. The problem is, over 70% of their powers they share. Not only do they share over 70% of their powers, but both know about the immortality of the other side, and they both know that the other side is going to try to counter their immortality. So, who you think wins in terms of either Hax count or whatever, that's kind of up to you. But the problem is, because they're immortal and hella acausal, we're kind of locked to win cons at this point. So who do I think wins? Here's the way I'd look at it. The Darkest Night probably takes speed. He has speed feats. It'd be reasonable to assume that he's faster than other characters in his tier. He also has the experiences and training of every other Batman in the Infinite Omniverse, so a speed advantage would be very useful for using mind games and psyops and mental traps. All useful stuff. I could see TDK leading the Witness over to, I don't know, a Black Sun or the Phantom Zone, or I could see him doing something where he tries to manipulate the cosmos in a way that works in his favor, and it would make it much easier to fight the Witness. I could definitely see that for sure. He's very crafty on that front. On the other hand, I think the ceiling using the Source Stones is pretty good too. My only issue with the Source Stones is just that Perpetua had to be drained before they could be used on her. In fact, the Darkest Night, more than likely, was absorbing all of Perpetua's energy throughout the duration of their entire fight. It's unknown how aggressive or how quickly TDK can absorb your power, but it's clearly significant enough that he's able to become stronger than someone mid-fight. I would not underestimate TDK's power absorption abilities, even if he had to absorb your power to seal you. For the Witness, I see 3 win cons. First and foremost, the final shape. While the final shape does have a charge time, it will be strong enough to negate the properties of Dr. Manhattan's immortality. All that happens is you're turned into a state in which you cannot return from. You can't use your immortality or your acausality or Hack's resistance to get around it. You're just screwed if you get hit by the final shape. It's not a no limits fallacy, however. There is a charge time attached to the final shape, and if left unchecked, it will completely negate the entire cosmology up to the level that they're fighting on. The second one, ironically enough, is TDK's own power absorption. Look, the Guardians have the best absorption inverse, but one, they can't fully absorb the Witness's attacks, or else they just die over time to it. And then also, when Guardians were training with Strand, they would just get erased from existence completely, and an external source had to revive them. With Prismatic, it is way worse. Prismatic is so intense a power that the Guardian needed a few minutes just to breathe after using it for the very first time. I don't think TDK's power absorption is useful here. Rather, I think it's going to deter him from doing anything, actually. Because once he picks up on the prismatic or strand energies in the Witness's power, abandoning his absorption of the Witness's power would be the best option. Mind you, it may also be possible that TDK would just absorb the energy anyway, be too arrogant, and just get erased without the Witness having to do anything. The last win con I could see for the Witness, which I also think is the least viable, would be defeating TDK in a physical confrontation. It's not just that the Witness is a complete stat freak that TDK cannot hope to match, it's that the Witness has all those freaking hands. He can just open a portal, grab the wrist of TDK and pull it through, or he could grab a leg and do that as well, and not to mention the Witness has 6 hands ready to go on his own body alone, and all of his hands occupy the same spot, so if he wanted to, he could just use one arm to grab you, then another arm would come out from the same side to hit you, or another arm from the same side would come out to, say, stab you or go for a pressure point down below like in the belly. While I could see that happening, the problem is, it still comes back to the fact that TDK is literally Dr. Manhattan, so he can just reform himself whenever he wants. And also, the Witness is really immortal on his own, and I don't employ that as a win con for the Witness, so I don't know how much I could even say this win con could apply to TDK. I'ma be real, I could see this possibly happening, but I don't see this being probable. It just sounds weird saying one immortal dude's gonna beat up another immortal dude and magically win that way. That's like some Dragon Ball stuff, and we all don't believe Dragon Ball stuff.
That's it? Come on, you guys can do better!
So in the end, who do I think wins? In my honest opinion, I think the Witness wins high diff, and here's why. Firstly, the Witness counters the Darkest Knight's power absorption with Strand, Prismatic, and his own abilities not being able to be fully absorbed by Guardians, in fact putting them down. The Witness also has way higher stats than the Darkest Knight. Also, the final shape, along with the counter to absorption, I think kinda seals the deal in the fight. I'ma be real, this was the most difficult versus battle I've ever had to decide on in the entire history of my YouTube career up to right now, July 9th, 2025. I might have said this a couple times already, but for just high-end characters in general, it is so hard to decide who wins. It's really difficult to be impartial, but hey, I tried it. I hope you guys liked this video. It took me a long time to make it, took me a long time to script it. This is my, 8th, 9th script within 3 weeks, maybe? Maybe less? It was a lot of time I put into making this. So I hope you guys appreciated it. If you did, liking, sharing, and supporting would greatly help me out. And if you're new to the channel, maybe drop a membership, because while you might not get any special benefits, hey, it would still help me out a lot, and I'm not going to lie about it. But that's all I had for you guys today. If you have your own opinion, please drop it in the comments, and, maybe I'll talk to you about it. Anyway, I'll catch y'all later. Peace!